I do not support or promote piracy. This video is based on opinions and hypothetical scenarios. It's not meant to be taken as legal advice or argument. This is not a clickbait. Companies are desperate, trying to prove piracy a massive crime, which is causing them billions in loss. Well, it's bullshit. And all these annoying anti-piracy campaigns, they don't decrease piracy, they increase it. Will you believe me if I tell you that GTA wouldn't have been so popular without piracy? In fact, biggest companies like Microsoft, Adobe, Ubisoft, etc. actually needed piracy for the popularity they currently have. And what if I say that large portion of people pirating movies and shows already have a subscription? Yeah, piracy isn't what it seems, and it's definitely not how it's represented by the media. There are a lot of things going on behind the surface you have no idea about, and at the end, you will wonder if piracy even is bad. You will have answers to why piracy sites can't get banned. How are pirates earning? Can you get arrested for downloading stuff for free? And obviously, the reality of piracy. But first, let me clear a stupid misconception that piracy is theft. You may have seen these ads comparing piracy to stealing cars. See, if you steal a Tesla Cybertruck from the company, it's stealing. If you steal it from the owner, that's theft, because they are losing something. It's a loss of money they spent for making it or loss of the person who bought it. But in piracy, you are cloning the car. Neither company lost the car and neither they lost their sales because the person who was going to purchase still purchased it anyways. The car you have is just an extra copy. The crime you're doing here is using a product without the rights, also called copyright infringement. In short, you painted your own version of a famous painting and decorated the room without having the owner's permission or buying it. You didn't steal the painting. And would you have bought the Cybertruck if cloning was not possible? No. You wouldn't have cloned it at the first place if you had that much money. You wouldn't paint duplicate if you could afford the original. That's piracy. It is indeed illegal, but even according to US government, interference with copyright does not easily equate with theft, conversion, or fraud. The infringer does not assume physical control over the copyright nor deprive its owner. Believe it or not, there are billions of people who really can't afford a software, even if it's just 10 or 20 bucks. $100 is like a whole month income for a majority of population in several countries. People may come up with an argument that a gamer who has above $1,000 gaming PC, accessories, and fast internet, there's no way they can't afford games legally, but still a lot of them use pirated version, which can be considered as loss, right? This should be logically true, but in reality, the stats show something else. For example, Crytek suffered a huge loss after games like Crysis 3 and Rise Son of Rome. This loss was so big that they had to reduce the company's size by 40%, and they blame piracy for this. They claim that they somehow track how many pirated copies of their games are installed. According to the stats of all their games, for each sale they make, 15 to 20 pirated copies are installed. That means if 1 million gamers purchase the game, 15 to 20 million play it for free. That sounds like a lot. It's insane. But wait, their previous games like Far Cry and Crysis were also available for piracy, right? And despite being their early releases, these are one of the most sold games in the world. Not just that, when you look at the most pirated games in the world, the games with good reviews are also the most selling of all time regardless of the piracy. Okay, let's take easiest example. The Witcher 3 is a masterpiece, and it was actually DRM free, meaning no anti-piracy mechanisms were used in it. But guess what? It is one of the best sellers of all time without any protection from piracy. So let's get one thing straight. There are 3 reasons for software and video game piracy. Either the product is popular and reaches user base who can't afford to pay, the publishers are not trustworthy, or are hated. Product is bad, or bad service is being provided by good product. What do I mean by that? DRM, or digital rights management, is a tech used to keep software and games safe from being cracked or pirated. It uses layers of code, verifications, and encryptions to constantly check the product's authenticity, making it harder to crack. But all of these processes running in the background also use the hardware, right? These checks can cause the game or software to run slower, with longer loading times, degraded performance, frequent crashes, and even locking the user out just because they are not online. And some DRMs like Denuvo are so strict that games saw up to 25% increase in performance after removing the DRM. See, no matter how powerful the security is, it is going to be cracked sooner or later. Cracking means completely removing the DRM out of the product. So unfortunately, the people who legally purchase digital items are the ones suffering from problems, while those who use pirated versions get much better experience. On top of that, they make even legitimate customers angry, lose their trust, and drive them away from purchasing products legally. It's not just about DRM. All the efforts for stopping piracy increases it instead. People who pay for movies are the ones who have to deal with annoying anti-piracy ads. The cost for implementing DRM increases the cost of the product too. If I pay for a software, I am restricted to use it on multiple devices. I am restricted to features according to my location. I have to pay extra money to remove ads and to get better quality. The question is not, why pirate? These companies should ask themselves why not. As you know, a wise man said, piracy is a service problem. And that concludes the 3 points. Witcher 3 was a success because it was an awesome game, had no DRM, experience was smooth, and people trusted the developers due to their previous releases, making it worth purchasing. Crysis 3, on the other hand, didn't do well because it was the worst game in the series. If this game was not pirated, people would have relied on reviews to decide if they want to buy or not, and it would decrease the sales even more because of how disastrous it was. The thing piracy is doing is just letting people try. This applies to softwares as well. Trusted companies make enough sales regardless of the piracy rate. That's why Adobe products are so easy to crack.
As long as they're going to steal it, we want them to steal ours. They sort of get addicted, and then we somehow figure out how to collect sometime in the next decade.
If the product is worth it, it will sell. And to prove this, I'm going to go even deeper. Is piracy lost sales? Listen, the user base of piracy is completely different. More than half of pirates are the people who cannot afford to purchase any digital products. I explained why at this timestamp. So if a product is not pirated, a sizable portion of pirates aren't going to buy it anyways. Also, many people use piracy as a demo for products. They download it, use it, and if it's worth it, they purchase to enjoy all features, including online features and DLCs. Also, a large amount of pirates are influenced by bad reviews or don't trust the product enough to pay for it, which is what happened with Crysis 3. Many pirates don't pay because they don't feel the product is worth it. A beginner to video editing might look for free or pirated software because they're not sure if they can stick with it, so they don't see the point in spending money yet. So after removing all these pirates, maybe only 5 to 10% would purchase the product if it weren't pirated. But still, it's a loss, right? Because even if we assume 5 to 10% would buy, then if something is pirated a million times, it is a loss of 50 to 100,000 possible sales. Well, again, logically, it should be true, but it's opposite. Do you remember I said that big companies like Microsoft and Adobe indirectly needed piracy? Yeah, let me tell you why. How do new companies promote their products? Through paid advertisements, right? Facebook, YouTube, Google, Insta, and everywhere. When companies advertise a product, they look at something called the conversion rate. This rate shows how many people buy a product after seeing an ad, which is typically around 2.5 to 5%. And if it's between 5 to 10%, that's considered a very good conversion rate. So if 100 people see an ad, about 2 to 10 of them might make a purchase. While piracy exists, it doesn't prevent companies from achieving their sales goals. They usually meet these conversion rates and make profit anyways. That's the whole reason for advertisement, and they wouldn't keep doing it if they're not making sales. To prove this, let's take cosmetics as example. Physical items can't be pirated, right? Wait, why compare cosmetics to softwares? Well, ads work the same way for everything because they target specific audiences. For example, cosmetic ads are shown to people interested in fashion and beauty, while ads for editing software are aimed at people who are interested in editing and are searching for similar content. Both work the same. And guess what? 2.5 to 5% is an ideal conversion rate for almost every industry. And if piracy was the problem, the software sales should be much lower than other products, right? But that's just not true. They are doing great, and it's growing continuously at a high rate. If you imagine a world without piracy, those 2 to 10 people out of 100 are your only customers until you become popular enough to be promoted through word of mouth. I'm not saying that piracy has no effect at all, but if you think about it, piracy is just extra. From the 100 people who saw the ad, 7 might be potential customer, while other 10 or 20 people are just interested. They check if a free copy is available. If not, they are going to skip it. They were not customers to begin with. But if a pirated copy is available, they use it. And trust me, 20 to 30% of total pirates are actually the future customers of that company. It's like an extended free trial. They will buy your next product without even thinking once they're satisfied using it.
When the web started, I used to get really grumpy with people because they put my poems up, they put my stories up. And I also got very grumpy because I felt like they were pirating my stuff, that it was bad. And then I started to notice that places where I was being pirated, I was selling more and more books. People were discovering me through being pirated. And I started to realize that actually you're not losing books. You're not losing sales. It's not a lost sale. Nobody who would have bought your book is not buying it because they can find it for free. What you're actually doing is advertising. You're reaching more people. You're raising awareness, because the biggest thing the web is doing is allowing people to hear things, allowing people to read things, allowing people to see things they might never have otherwise seen.
If a product is worth it, you don't have to be scared of piracy. All it can do is increase popularity. That is what happened with every big company, and that's why they are so easy to crack. But where am I going with this? Is piracy good? Till now, most of the points were in support of piracy, but it is called bad for a reason, right? I have to talk about both negative and positive impacts. So now let's understand what piracy really is. First negative point is revenue loss. While pirates cannot be considered customers, we have to keep in mind that a small portion of them would have paid if they didn't have a free option. This is not out-of-the-pocket loss, but sure, a revenue loss, meaning the money companies couldn't earn. But this isn't a problem at all. I explained how piracy works as a free advertisement, helping products reach a large audience while saving people from spending on bad ones. In short, piracy causes short-term revenue loss and long-term profit boost, but it again leads to a different negative point: harm. Pirates are not always selfless. They may give you free content, but also include viruses and adwares to make you pay in a different way. Piracy is the most effective way for spreading viruses into large number of devices. And it's hard to prevent because people have to turn off antivirus for using cracks. It can harm you in 1,000 ways, like encrypting down all the important documents, use your device as a tunnel for illegal activities, and even blackmailing. But at the same time, piracy also helps in market research and understanding what is in demand, what people like, what to invest in, and what to avoid. Netflix also sometimes looks at piracy data before buying rights to a movie or show. This decreases the risk of investing on mediocre projects. Another negative point is lack of recognition. In the 90s, a song went very popular named Sex and Candy. Of course, it was available for free on Napster, which was the Pirate Bay of music at the time. The uploader of the song made a typo and wrote Nirvana as the creator of the song. Just due to a simple typo, almost half of the people who listened to this song believed it was made by Nirvana, while the original creator, Marcy Playground, couldn't get proper recognition. Same goes for many industries. When works are shared without proper credits, original creators struggle to gain the recognition and financial benefits they deserve. This makes it difficult to control how their work is used and distributed, which is very discouraging. But again, piracy can make content accessible to people in places where it is unavailable due to multiple issues. So you're doing business while being promoted to all corners of the world.
I don't think bands should be so concerned with making every penny that should be squeezed out of everything. It's like, I want kids in Thailand to rock out when we show up to Thailand, you know? I don't care if they bought the record or not. If they downloaded it off their computer, right on. If they taped it off to their friend, right on.
As you can see, piracy has a kind of balanced impact on the market. It has negative points as well as positive ones. If you watch this video properly, you can't deny that piracy is actually important for a balance in digital industry. Then what are the reasons that make piracy bad? It's the mindset. There are places in the world where pirating is so normal that they don't even know they have to pay for it. Downloading things illegally is like a day-to-day life there. Obviously, this happens at places where people don't have a history of buying digital items. But without awareness, this might get too normalized, and even the people who can afford won't pay because of the usual habit. This gets even more bad when people start using piracy for business. Local shops in countries like India charge fees for installing Windows and other softwares into computer, and these are all outdated pirated copies. There are sites which sell pirated games and softwares at low cost to trick innocent people into paying for illegal copies, thinking it's original with discount. There are various illegal streaming platforms which charge subscriptions lower than actual streaming services and provide access to almost every movie or web series on the internet. While piracy is a copyright infringement, earning money through it is a serious crime. That's the reason why owners of Pirate Bay got arrested. It's the worst side of piracy. But now you may be wondering, how is this even allowed on Surface Web? Why are Pirate Bay and other sites not banned yet? Why is torrenting still allowed? Well, torrent is just a file sharing technology and it can't be banned. It has other important roles in the internet other than piracy. And since torrent is a P2P technology, people are the one in control. Authorities can't enforce any law on a single person. I have explained why in my previous video. Now comes Pirate Bay. It has been taken down many times, by the way, but never permanently. Pirate Bay itself doesn't upload content, it's the users. It's like a social media for piracy, and according to Copyright Millennium Act, The platform isn't held responsible when users upload copyrighted works. Efforts to shut down Pirate Bay have to face challenges related to free speech and internet freedom. On top of that, Pirate Bay is completely decentralized and has multiple proxy and mirror sites. It also has an Onion version, which obviously has no chance being banned. But still, the founders of the Pirate Bay were arrested. It wasn't for copyright infringement, though. They were arrested because of the same Copyright Millennium Act, which also states that the platform will be responsible if they don't take down copyrighted content when asked by the respective owners. They were charged for enabling and even encouraging the illegal distribution of copyrighted works and making profits from advertising revenue generated by the site. And since we are talking about laws, let me tell you what are the consequences for downloading or uploading pirated content. Will you be arrested for it? As I mentioned earlier, the crime you are doing by pirating is copyright infringement, not theft. So no, you won't be arrested just for accessing paid content for free, but the owner of the content has full rights to take legal action against you if they find out. This could result in fines, lawsuits, or other penalties depending on where you live. The big legal consequences come when someone is profiting from piracy, like running a website that hosts movies, games, or software. Those individuals can face huge fines and even jail. But here's the thing. Most pirates don't face legal action because it will be too hard to track down every single person downloading free stuff. Instead, the industry focuses on the larger scale pirates who run the system. With that, I think I answered the main questions mentioned in the intro, but now it's time for media piracy. The impact and causes of piracy on media like movies, television, and shows are different from software and games, also because it is the most pirated content on the internet. But it doesn't really affect the creators of the media that much. For example, movies are usually released in theaters first, and piracy is pretty low at this stage because most people wait for it to come in good quality. So if a movie has enough hype, theaters are usually packed and ticket sales aren't really affected. If there's no hype, then there's even less chance of piracy. After that, the rights to the movie are sold to various streaming platforms and TV channels. These platforms pay a fee to the movie's owner for airing it legally. So once it is sold, piracy isn't much of a problem for the creators anymore. The same thing goes for shows. The creators mainly make money by brand placements, which means using any brand within the episodes for promoting it. Then the copyright fees that these streaming platforms pay for airing. The real issue is for the platforms that buy the rights, like Netflix, HBO, Disney+, etc. These platforms usually make money through ads, promotions, and subscription fees. If no one is watching and they keep paying for the rights, they'll end up losing a lot of money. And since media is the most pirated item in the market, this should be a big problem, right? Trust me, I'm not being a piracy supporter, but that isn't true. Ha ha ha. Netflix is literally one of the top-ranking companies with continuous growth. It already surpassed cables in USA. And here's the fun fact. More than a good share of pirates already have a subscription in one of the streaming platforms. Why are they pirating then? Isn't Netflix so convenient and easier? At just few dollars, you get to watch almost everything anytime and anywhere. Then why choose piracy? Let's go deeper. First reason is availability. Countries like China and Russia don't even have Netflix, and as you know, they are the largest part of piracy market. But even in countries where Netflix is available, censorship is an issue. Many shows are either banned or have certain parts censored due to the country's policies, and no one likes censorship. So even if they have a subscription, they are going to pirate anyways. In many countries, cable TV is still more reliable. It's been there for a long time and people are simply used to it. Switching to online services will need more time and also smart devices. Cables provide content tailored for their local viewers. They offer shows in their native language, featuring content that's popular and relevant to their culture. Local content that often isn't available on streaming services. And unlike USA, cables are much cheaper as well. Most of the piracy comes from younger people in these households trying to watch whatever's popular. Other than that, online streaming has very little or no use in these countries. Finally comes the interesting reason. Do you know why cable TV failed? It's because people don't want to pay hundreds of dollars for random unnecessary channels they don't even watch. Netflix became a better choice because it's too convenient. Everything at a single place for a highly affordable price. Of course people chose to pay for it, and it actually decreased piracy. But as you know, when something popular comes out, everyone races to make their own version of it. Same happened in streaming industry when Disney+, Hulu, Prime, and others started popping up in the market. And to bring customers, they used exclusives. Want to watch Stranger Things? You need Netflix. Game of Thrones, HBO, Loki, well, Disney Plus is the only option. As you can see, all the blockbusters are divided. It's no longer a one-place, one-price deal. And if people start buying everything, it will be no different from cables. So this is what happens. Some have Netflix subscription, and some have others. Whenever they want to watch something else, they download it illegally. paying for one and enjoying everything. Obviously, I'm not denying the fact that there is an audience who pirate just because they can. It is bad, but it is unstoppable. We are humans. There will always be people who use an opportunity for good. At the same time, there will be those who exploit it for selfish gain. Piracy, in the end, is neither good nor bad. It exists because we seek convenience, fairness, and sometimes shortcuts. It solves problems for some while creating them for others. But you can't declare piracy purely evil based on a single-sided argument. Piracy will stop when greed dies. When companies focus more on customers than thinking about squeezing money out of everything, and when people stop finding shortcuts to get whatever they want. And with that, I'd like to end this video here. Share your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. I also wanted to include the history of piracy, how it started and what will it be like in the future, but it would make this video too long. I can make one on it if you want. If you want to know how software and games are cracked and converted into torrent, watch the video on the right side. Thank you. See you soon.